Good afternoon. I am Vishnu, Head of Photography at VERDURE, the annual magazine of Department of Biological Science, Sri Venkateswara College, University of Delhi. Today, we, the student members of VERDURE, will conduct an interview with Dr. Shalini Vasan. Dr. Shalini is an alumnus of our department and is currently working as a science writer at JOE, Journal of Visualized Experiments. She recently published a research paper, Important Innate Differences in Determining Symbiotic Responsiveness in Host and Non-Host of Arbuscular Mycorrhiza in Springer Nature. We welcome you, ma'am, to this interview session and thank you for accepting our invitation and joining us today. Now we will begin with our interview. So the first question for you is, what inspired you to pursue research on arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi? As in, what particular importance do they hold in terms of climate change?
First of all, thank you, Vishnu, for the introduction and to the team of VERDURE for this opportunity. To address the first part of this question, I have always been clear about extending my knowledge towards helping two main backbones of our country. The first one is the soldiers and the second one is farmers. When I joined the Energy and Resources Institute, TERI, I was introduced into the field of mycorrhizal research. And I realized that this would be my way of giving back to the farmers. Now, you might think that a laboratory research would merely be 0.1% of what actually goes into improving the livelihoods of farmers. But it was a start for me, and it might serve as a blueprint for all the researchers who are yet to come in and explore this field. And somewhere down the line, it will help the farmer livelihood. So that is what motivated me to go ahead with my research career. Now, if you think about its particular importance to the climate change, let's first understand that climate change is not an independent entity. It is caused by a series of natural and man-made calamities, and it also damages many sectors. If we talk about the agriculture sector, which is mainly concerned with the topic of mycorrhizal research, then yes, arbuscular mycorrhiza does help crop survival through biotic and abiotic stresses. But then the details of how it does that is, of course, another whole topic of discussion.
Thank you, ma'am. We can move on to the next question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. Myself, Pritha Chatterjee. I'm an editor with VERDURE. So my question to you is, could you give us some insights into the role of arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi in agriculture? And how do they provide long-term benefits to the soil? And do they help mitigate the effects of climate change?
Thank you for the question, Preeta. Arbuscular mycorrhiza are termed as the mother of plant root endosymbiosis. What they do is they colonize plant roots, form structures in the cortex called arbuscules, and this is the main site where the nutrient exchange happens. Whenever a host plant is colonized with mycorrhiza, arbuscular mycorrhiza, it gets nutrients from depleted soils, such as nitrogen and phosphorus, and in return, it gives carbon sources such as hexoses to the arbuscular mycorrhiza. Now, when a plant is in symbiosis with mycorrhiza, there are benefits to the plant, such as increased yields. It enhances the plant's pathogen tolerance level. And as I mentioned earlier, also coping with biotic and abiotic stresses. If we talk about what are the long-term benefits to soil, then the area where the symbiosis is taking place has been known to be prone to bioremediation, and mycorrhizal soils have also been known to deal with heavy metal toxicity, helping heavy metal toxicity and alleviating the fertilizer and pesticide toxicity, because when a plant is in symbiosis with mycorrhiza, the load of chemical fertilizers and pesticides reduces because a lot of benefits are already provided to the crop with this mutualism. Now, again, if we move to the effects of climate change and how mycorrhiza helps mitigate it, we need to first understand that climate change is not just warmer summers, drought or flood-prone monsoons, or harsher winters. It has many more effects, and one of the major things is interfering with the seasonal cycles. You all know that agriculture has a particular cultivation cycle. There are sowing cycles and harvest cycles. Due to climate change, these cycles are interfered with. And because of that, there is a lot of damage to the crops. And we have known through research over the years that in forest, temporal and boreal forest, the climate change adversities are compensated quite a bit with the symbiosis with mycorrhiza. And also, there are studies that have shown that mycorrhiza help reduce soil nitrogen emission in the form of nitrous oxide, which is one of the greenhouse gases that increases the climate change effects by localizing the nitrogen towards the plant and helping in the uptake. But one consideration that we need to take here is that all of these are pot studies mostly. And when you shift a plant from pot study to ex situ, that is the field study, you would not really find a plant exclusively working with one kind of symbiosis. There are a lot of plant microbe interactions happening. It can be it can be different kinds of mycorrhiza, it can be endobacterium. So there are a lot of things to be considered. And that is why I said that climate change, as well as the effect of mycorrhiza on climate change, cannot be treated as an independent entity. And a lot of research needs to be taken place to understand exactly how it affects in the real time.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we move on to the next question.
Hi, ma'am. I'm Avantika, creative team member of Team VERDURE. My question is, as a PhD holder in environment sciences, what do you think an individual can contribute towards sustainable development?
Hi, Avantika. Thank you for the question. It's a really good question and very timely too. I think every individual can and should contribute towards sustainable development, especially this year. The year 2022 has been announced as the Basic Sciences for Sustainable Development Year by United Nations. So it is more than important now for contributing to the field of sustainable development. And if you actually read into it, there are 17 goals listed by United Nations for achieving sustainable development, and most of them are basic rights that every human being should have access to. If we talk about some of these, it is not having poverty, zero hunger, climatic action, clean water, sanitization, clean energy. Now, if you think about it, it is essential requirements. So we have to contribute to sustainable development because it is the only option to not only provide the present generation, but also the future ones. And we all can contribute it by just making very small changes to our daily lifestyle habits. And that would be like not letting the water running when not needed, or serving ourselves enough meal portions to avoid wastage. And if wastage does happen, then using ways to make it reach people who need it. There are companies that are coming up who take wasted food to people who do not have any food, who are having hunger issues, but instead of throwing it in the garbage. And also using biodegradable options for packaging, avoiding poly bags and straws. There are a lot of small things that you can easily incorporate in your lifestyle habits that can make a big effect in promoting sustainable development. So every individual can and should contribute to it.
Thank you, ma'am. Now we move on to the next question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Vedehi, a creative team member at VERDURE. And my question is, could you tell us more about the journey you have had as a scientific researcher after you graduated in 2013? And what would you like to tell the young researchers who are looking forward to exploring this field?
Hi, Vedehi. That's a wonderful question. So to give you a brief idea about what happened after my graduation from Sri Venkateshwara. So I graduated in September 2013, in July 2013, and I joined TERI in September 2013. What I really wanted to do is explore my research into the field of mycorrhiza or anything that has any help towards farmers, and as I already told you. So what I had initially planned was having a 6-month period to understand how research works for me. And during my final project report submission, um, our, our campus at Terry was visited by a faculty from Deakin University, Australia. And he happened to interview me and gave me the offer of master's at Deakin University, Australia, in collaboration with Terry, India. And that's how my master's program got initiated. And when I was submitting the first year project review, I was offered a conversion to PhD from the panel who was reviewing my presentation. And that's how my MS PhD journey began. And the best part of it was 100% scholarship, and I was paid the research scholar stipend. So it gave me the exposure as well as it helped me through my career to grow professionally as well. So I worked at the Delhi and Gurugram offices of Terry. Then I moved on to Australia and worked in the Geelong and Melbourne campuses for a part of my PhD objective. And during the final year of my PhD, my topic was accepted for a talk at Microbe 2019, which is a conference held in Vienna, Austria. And finally, I graduated in 2020. Now, if you look at it, it might seem like an amazing thing to happen, but my journey was nothing short of an ECG graph. So just like you would not want your ECG to be a flat line, you would not want your life to not have any ups and downs. And that is something I emphasize during providing student orientation to new batches that come to our institute. I keep telling the young minds that something my supervisor told me, those who sweat more in training bleed less during the battle. And that is something that helped me keep going when I face challenges over challenges, and still do, because there's never a time in life you won't face challenges. But it'll always be helpful. At the end of the day, you'll be proud of what you've achieved. So go after what inspires you. Do not focus so much on the destination that you fail to enjoy the journey. At the end of it, it will be worth it all. So that's my message to the younger minds.
Thank you, ma'am. We can move on to the next question.
Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Mansi, one of the creative team members at VERDURE. So my question to you is, how are you bringing out your passion for environmental advocacy through the means of your current job position? What all activities do you undertake to keep your passion for environmental advocacy alive?
Hi, and thank you for the question. I'm currently working as a science writer for the US-based Journal of Visual Experiments, as you said, Joe. And it helps me stay at par with all the developments happening in the field of science and technology. But environmental sciences for me is not limited by my profession. It is something that is like passion for me. And you keep exploring options professionally, but when it's about your passion, you know how to incorporate that in your daily life. And that's what I do. Environmental advocacy is just making yourself and the people around you aware about the fact that the environment is vulnerable and it needs our protection more than anything. So that is what I do. I keep in mind that I am purchasing products that are environmental friendly. We are not increasing the load of chemicals onto the environment. I have very small things that I add to my daily habits, such as using cloth bags every time I go for grocery shopping or things like that instead of buying a poly bag. I do not waste water. I'm thoughtful about my meal portions. I recycle paper. And even though I have a car, I prefer public transport whenever it's feasible. And I think this is very small changes that we make to our life habits, and being thoughtful enough helps reduce the stress on environment. Mostly, I think people neglected thinking, what can one person do? And that is where it goes wrong. Because if we think it is one person, probably it won't have a significant effect. But if each person starts making these changes and reduces the stress of all of these habits on the environment, then it will make a big impact and help not only sustainability, but also better times than what we are experiencing right now.
Now, as we have come to the end of our interview session, we, the student members of VERDURE, would like to extend a token of gratitude to Dr. Shalini Vasan for joining us today and sharing her expertise with us. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much to the whole team of VERDURE. It is a pleasure being here, not only to give you my insights about sustainability, but also as an alumnus from biological sciences. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I wish you all the best, and I look forward to interacting more in future.